So there's a few ways we can go about this. The first, of course, being the literal first thing they say on screen, which for Ben is,
Come on.
which immediately sets Ben up as an eager, impatient character. A pretty solid first line. At the end of his story, he finishes off with,
Pack your bags. We're going on a road trip.
a nice way to wrap things up as he now starts and ends the franchise with a road trip. Though, if you want to count Alien Extinction, I suppose a case could be made that at least this one could be Ben Prime. Where there, his last line would be,
He's right. You couldn't have done it without me.
before getting kicked through the portal. Though that's assuming that even if this is Ben Prime, then this appearance takes place after Omniverse is over. However, as this is Ben 10, we get a ton of flashbacks and flash forwards throughout the timeline. So chronologically, his first line would be,
Hey, Mr. Bowman!
which sets him up as a friendly, albeit a bit of annoying character. And did I say timeline? Sorry, I meant timelines, plural, because we've seen 3 versions of Ben's future. So depending on which timeline you want to follow, his last chronological line would either be,
That is, if that works for you guys.
where he accepts Kevin's son as part of the Tennyson family, rounding out Ben as an empathetic character who will always give someone a second chance. Or in the next timeline, he says,
I also threw in a few new ones, because it'll annoy Asmith when he finds out.
this line emphasizing that no matter how much time passes, he's still the Ben we know and love at heart. And in the third future, his last line is in the middle of a dire circumstance, where he tells his son,
Do what your dad tells you for once. There's only one person in the universe who can help us now.
which is probably the best example of Ben's growth, as he's now a father who thinks things through and aims for the best outcome. We first meet Gwen when Ben enters the Rust Bucket for the road trip, where she defends her presence aboard the motorhome.
Take it easy, dweeb. This wasn't my idea. Somebody convinced my mom that going camping for the summer would be a good experience for me.
Another solid first line, as the take it easy dweeb indirectly explains her relationship with Ben. This not being her idea sets her up to be dissatisfied with the road trip at first, and her mom urging her to have good experiences may imply she doesn't have many to begin with. Her last line is the total opposite.
I used to wonder if Charmcaster and I could have been friends under different circumstances. And now I know that's true.
This shows Gwen, now Gwendolyn, has grown to be a much more optimistic character, and the hypothetical of a friendship with Charmcaster implies she's had many experiences over the years compared to her younger self. She makes a cameo after this, but doesn't have any speaking lines. And if you want to stretch it a bit, we can confirm her last line is technically her correcting Ben.
Gwen. Okay, fine. Gwendolyn.
Although we don't actually hear her say this. Chronologically, we don't get any flashbacks of Gwen, but among the 3 timelines, her last line could either be,
Give Kenny a chance. He'll earn your trust.
showing us that Ben and Gwen grew to have a close and supportive relationship. We don't see her in the second future, but it's notable that she was president of Earth for a period of time. And in the third timeline, her last line is,
So do I.
a retort to her current opponent, Maltruant, which is not all that exciting of a line. Now let's circle back to Grandpa Max, his first on-screen line being,
Come on, Ben, let's go. We're burning daylight. I want to make it to the campsite by nightfall.
a pretty iconic line as it gets repeated at the end of the classic series.
Come on, let's go. We're burning daylight.
And again, it's a pretty strong opener. It mirrors Ben's first line of eagerness, but Max's delivery makes it feel more good-natured. His last line, however,
What happened to Albedo?
says nothing about his character. Bummer. Chronologically, we know some bits and pieces, like he worked on a farm, he had a fear of heights, and was childhood friends with Donovan, but his first chronological line of dialogue is shortly after he joins the Air Force.
1-0 on an intercept course with the unidentified flying object that has just entered Earth's atmosphere. Over.
And in the first future, he sets up the offer to Devlin to join the Tennysons.
You could stay here with us and be part of our family.
And in the third future, he slaps Robo-Gorillo Animo at the ripe young age of 80.
I still got it.
Which is more fitting of a final line for him, but it's only a possible future. Kevin first shows up early in the series at an arcade with Ben.
You're right. The games here stink.
He's introduced as an alleged ally to Ben, but his general demeanor makes you hesitant to trust him completely. Throughout the series, Kevin does become a real ally to the Tennysons and forms a relationship with Gwendolyn, who after being imprisoned by Charmcaster and then escapes, greets her with,
Good to have you back, G.
where Kevin is now a loyal and loving character. We never see Kevin before his first appearance either. In the first possible future, he delved further into villainy, as Ben 10,000 and his son Kenny struggle to fight him.
That the best you got?
Where his last line is him screaming as he gets sucked into an egg. In the third future, he presses his old con buddy for betraying him for the 322nd time.
Argent, what did you do?
Which shows that in this future, he stayed good. Late into the Prime storyline, Rook boldly makes an entrance after effortlessly defeating a few thugs messing with Mr. Bauman's store.
Rook Blanco.
Magister Tennyson sent me. I'm your new partner.
He's stoic, a true soldier, and in a meta sense still being developed, as Bumper Robinson's voice for the character will eventually lose the gruffness and use a higher register. And he also controversially uses a contraction, which is the equivalent to swearing on his home planet. His last line is in response to Ben's proposition of taking a road trip.
That does sound less mundane.
Where now, he can appreciate the fun of being a hero, and resonates with Ben's positive energy more openly. In one future, his last chronological line insults Arjet's new position of power.
How did you ever get elected?
Which isn't much, but Rook telling a joke at all is not what you'd expect from him in his first appearance, so it does show some growth. Professor Paradox is a bit of an odd one, but we can at least track his origins, as his first on-screen and first chronological appearance are the same to us.
The chronologer is hardly a time machine in the sense of a vehicle, but rather a subatomic drill designed to bore a tunnel in the fabric of space-time.
He says as he explains to the military how his new invention works. Due to his time-walking abilities, it's hard to confidently say that his last chronological line is also his last on-screen line, but he finishes the story off with,
"Now, help me pick up the rest of Maltruant. We have a lot to do before I take you home."
As he's now also become a close ally to Team Tennyson. As for Azimuth, the creator of the Omnitrix, we're first introduced to him as an arrogant hermit on Xenon.
The Omnitrix? What are you doing with my Omnitrix?
His only interest being the circumstance of his invention. Fast forward to the end of the story, he explains the result of his ex-lab assistant turned terrorist.
Oh, he's keeping the city clean for the next 30 Galvan solar cycles.
He's now back on his home planet, taken up a position as their leader, and now cares about the safety of his civilians. In his early life, he had a girlfriend who bought him a fancy microscope, or in his words,
"It enables us to gaze upon the primal forces of the universe, Senna. How can you not want to harness it?"
He's much more clueless and emotionally expressive here, but also more arrogant than ever. Tetrax, a fan favorite, enters the series as a mysterious bounty hunter tracking down Ben's location.
This is where the Omnitrix was last activated.
But after his true nature as an ally is revealed, he ships off to continue his quest to defeat Vilgax. But hey, is that really a good idea?
Maybe. Maybe not.
Into which he's never seen again.
Did he just fucking die?
While he doesn't speak, we do get a brief flashback in his bounty hunting days, which led to his betrayal of Petropia and sets up his story arc. Ben's now ex-girlfriend, Julie Yamamoto, was his most popular love interest. We meet her as a fan of Ben, not as a hero, but as an athlete. She introduces herself.
"Julie, I know who you are. Great game."
And then through an absolute roller coaster of events, she ends her story with relief that she's far away from Ben, and never even enjoyed his favorite beverage.
Mr. Smoothie tastes like feet.
Thank you.
A complete 180. She makes a non-speaking appearance in a later episode, revealing she's continued her new relationship. Then we have Kai Green, Ben's controversial wife in his alleged true future, where Gwen asks if Kai is sure that her dance hasn't summoned the rain.
Positive. Why?
Not much for an intro, and her ending isn't that great either, where Ben asks if she believes in destiny.
Nope.
And in that alleged true future, she observes the results of Maltruant's attack.
Maybe that solar flare knocked everything out.
Yeah, none of these lines really say anything about her, but she wasn't that strong of a character anyway. And with another divisive character, we have Arjet, where love him or hate him, we can never get rid of him. We're introduced to him in a tech deal set up by Kevin.
Kevin, buddy, I've been waiting like an hour.
Here, he's all business and a straightforward con man. His character hasn't quite been Flanderized at this point either. He ends the series having conned his way into a notably successful security business with Tekadon bodyguards. And after realizing that the con man has thus been conned himself...
Well played, Benny. Boys!
But chronologically, his story begins as a prisoner of Cervantes, who Kevin has a soft spot for.
Thanks, man.
But in a possible future, Arjet worked himself all the way up to President of Earth.
Re-elect Arjet 2032!
Sir George became a big part of the supporting cast in Ultimate Alien. He makes a few non-speaking appearances in a couple of episodes before he finally talks the first time.
Be seated, Driscoll.
Where he gives the Forever King himself an order, garnishing his power over them. He's defeated towards the end of the Dagon arc as the Eldritch God strikes him down with a bolt of demonic lightning.
What wizardry is this? Clouds cannot protect you from my wrath.
George didn't make it.
This is also his last chronological appearance too, but in the timeline, his earliest line is first meeting with Azimuth back in ancient Rome.
A demon from the pit. A tiny demon.
Before we move on to the villains, did you hear that Yuri Lowenthal is joining the cast of 5 years later?
Is this what you've been waiting for?
Episode 12 just dropped last month, and we're currently running a giant community-wide campaign for you to be a part of episode 13. So if you haven't watched the series already, this is the perfect time to get into it. If you want to know how to be a part of the next episode, check out the video linked down below. And also keep an eye out for our trading card pre-orders coming this December. This kind of stuff helps us fund our projects, so we appreciate the support. Anyways, let's revisit the pilot episode 1 one final time for Vilgax's first on-screen dialogue.
I have come too far to be denied.
He's menacing, determined, and tells us he's been at this for a long time. But does his journey eventually pay off? Perhaps he should have stayed on Vilgaxia when he had it good, as it was his obsession over Ben and the Omnitrix that led to his ultimate defeat. But he does show up one more time in a flashback. Looking back, he started as a low-level criminal, but he still had enough empathy, or at least curiosity, to investigate a cry for help.
I received a distress signal. Is someone in need of assistance?
He's certainly come a long way, and in one future, we see there's a chance that he gets revived by Dr. Animo and enhanced with even more cybernetics.
This is your attempt to stop me. It's pathetic and pointless.
But all it took was Ben lightening up his mood a little bit to trip Vilgax enough for another defeat. Dr. Animo, Ben's second most popular enemy, is introduced by his landlord investigating his dirty apartment.
How did you get in?
Not much for an introductory line, but it does set him up to be aggressively confrontational. Then he meets Ben, and over the years becomes a scatterbrained scientist and loses any intimidation factor he once might have had.
Oh, what happened?
Were his last on-screen words before being thrown back into jail once more. Chronologically, we don't know exactly what he said, but we do know he was flipping out for not winning an award. But in one future, his last words were,
"You can't protect the Null Void and yourselves at the same time."
To which Gwen and her future self were indeed able to protect the Null Void and themselves at the same time. And in another future, he takes his defeat in stride with a joke after his head becomes detached.
Note to self, reinforce neck bolt.
And to wrap up the trio of Ben's villainous big three is zs'skayr, whose first on-screen line can be debatable. If we're being terribly literal, it's when he's disguising himself as a child to influence Ben's nightmare.
Help! I can't get down!
But the first time we hear him use his real voice is a couple of lines later.
I don't want to get down. I want out.
Then he speaks a few more times as either hallucinations or possessing Ben's body, but once he finally escapes the Omnitrix, we get his true independent first line.
And I thought we were close. So nice to finally meet you face to face.
As for his last line, it's either no! Or just him screaming to his death. Take your pick. Interestingly enough, just like Vilgax, while this is his last chronological appearance, he actually has one more on-screen appearance after this, which is in a flashback, making his last on-screen line,
"This is not over between us, Ben Tennyson. Revenge will be mine."
And thus we put an end to zs'skayr's story. Unless you want to watch and beyond.
Forever Knights, answer me. Where is he?
That was Albedo's first on-screen line of dialogue, in a clone of Ben's Humongosaur transformation. We know he's tough, a good fighter, and the fact that he resembles Ben paints him to be a complex character right off the bat. But by the story's end, he's hilariously devalued, turned into a child, and forced to do labor on Galvan Mark II.
Can I get some sunblock out here?
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. While we circle back to his first chronological appearance, he's still a loyal assistant to Azimuth.
First thinker Azimuth has told you he's busy, human. Accept it.
Funny how that worked out. Let's do a couple of fun ones. Zombozo is set up to be a psychotic but still terrifying antagonist as Ben spies on him at the circus.
Howdy, folks. Are you ready to laugh? Perfect. You're gonna knock him dead.
Who, like Albedo, becomes much more pathetic and lame as time goes on.
No fair defeating your fear with my fear.
Hex begins his story on the hunt for
the Arcamata Book of Spells. All of its power shall soon be mine.
Where he then goes through an off-screen redemption arc and starts working at Gwen's school, lusted after by the staff's professor of art history, who is named
Helena.
Hex's niece, Charmcaster, is first shown breaking him out of jail with a powerful spell that combines mystical dust and enchanting words. Clearly setting her up to be a knowledgeable and powerful sorceress. She ends the series after being duped by a simple sleight of hand illusion. Thankfully, not all of Ben's villains end their story with a gag, as Malware was pretty well rounded throughout his whole story. His first line of dialogue challenges Ben's reputation.
This is the great Ben Tennyson, bearer of the Omnitrix, savior of the universe.
Which, while the moment is comedic, it doesn't play Malware as a joke, but instead makes a joke out of his boastfulness, which in turn plays into Ben's own skill and confidence. Malware ends his story fully accepting that Ben is indeed the legendary hero he was told about, who can only cry out his final words.
Ben Tennyson!
Malware's self-assured nature is also present in his first chronological appearance, defending his right to be seen as a fellow galvanic mechamorph and not a corrupted mutation.
I am not a subspecies.
I'll show you subspecies!
His body is shown later in the series as armor fashioned for Vilgax, though his speaking days are over. And one of my favorite villains, Cervantes, makes a grand entrance with his line,
Gentlemen, ladies, we are the rooters, and this space is now under our absolute control.
A clear introduction to his personality, his occupation, and the power he has over the plumbers in one fell swoop. It's a bit exposition heavy, but realistically, this is how somebody would introduce themselves in this position. After his defeat, he still refuses to let go of his dictatorial attitude, as he's in complete disbelief that he can simply be thrown in jail.
What? You don't seriously believe you can arrest me?
But yes, Vinny, your reign of power is over. Chronologically, we get a ton of exposition for Cervantes' story and the nature of his experiments, but the first time we actually hear him talk would be,
and this, Alan, will be your living quarters,
where he tries to play himself off as a caring authority figure to his child slaves, but is still quite the creepy fellow. And like Professor Paradox, Eon's first and last lines are a bit strange, as he crosses over throughout different mediums of the franchise. We first meet him in the live-action film Race Against Time, where he questions his followers.
Did you find it?
Portraying him as a demanding and serious conductor behind the scenes. After traveling to the animated universe and getting his shit stomped a dozen times over, he ends his story with,
"What are you doing? We had a deal."
Which is one of the most awkward line reads I've ever heard. We end our list with Maltruant, the final major antagonist of the Prime franchise, whose first spoken words are interestingly an acknowledgement of Azimuth's genius.
The greatest mind in the galaxy is Azimuth, but no matter the alternate dimensional timeline, he is always too smart to be evil.
It also explains that he's able to travel throughout the multiverse. But given his submissive opinion of Azimuth, paired with the visual of him laying across an operating table, immobilized, we're introduced to Maltruant as a vulnerable character, which contrasts his attitude, making him very interesting. Though once he's all fixed up, he starts checking all the boxes of Ben's standard one-dimensional antagonists and doesn't really do anything original, including his final line, which we've already heard twice on this list. What was that again? Oh yeah. I was gonna do some of the smaller supporting cast like Mr. Bauman, Jimmy Jones, Blue Kitchen Driba, etc., but that depends on how well this video does, so leave a like and comment if you want more. But until next time, keep it fizzy. Special thanks to Andrew Analik in the ink cartridge tier, and Elizabeth Susan and Maps in the ink barrel tier. Your contributions greatly help the future of this channel, and we couldn't do it without you. Thanks.